Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking a look at Batman's fighting style in Zack Snyder's Justice League. After years of asking, the fans finally got what they wanted: Zack Snyder's true vision of Justice League. It resulted in a 4-hour epic with tons of new content. Since I already gave an extensive analysis to his fighting style in Batman vs Superman, and I never did a fighting styles video for his content in Justice League, it felt appropriate to revisit the character now that we can see him as Zack Snyder intended. So consider this an addendum to the original episode that started the entire fighting style series, as we take a look at how his moves match up to what was originally analyzed and if the style has evolved or changed. If you haven't done so, I highly recommend watching said episode before watching this video, as it thoroughly analyzes exactly what was going on in the incredible Batman warehouse fight scene from Batman vs Superman. It's available in the description below. The goal of these videos is to figure out just how many fighting styles our combatant is familiar with by analyzing the specific moves featured in their footage and pairing them with the martial art or fighting style which most aptly represents those moves. There's a huge amount of crossover in martial arts techniques, and a technique that is present in one fighting style may also be present in another, such as a roundhouse kick being present in multiple martial arts. But in order to not give combatants multiple fighting styles for the sake of variety, I have instead opted to list the most apt fighting style that best represents that particular character, technique, or set of techniques. I highly recommend watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, as this video will analyze footage from that film. That being said, I will keep plot and story details to a minimum, but do take this as your spoiler warning. Fighting styles that Batman may know in any other form of media, such as in comics or novel form, or video games, or other film series outside of Zack Snyder's DC-verse, do not count. Without further ado, let's take a look at how many fighting styles Batman knows. Probably the biggest change to Batman's fighting style, and that is reflected in everything from his suit to his armored Batmobile, is that he is dealing with super-powered henchmen this time around. And those henchmen are the incredibly resilient and strong parademons. So unfortunately, his hand-to-hand combat is limited, as he increasingly relies on his tech and gadgets to overcome the odds this time around. His first main fight in Zack Snyder's Justice League is with said parademons. He begins the fight by relying on pure, simple physics. If he jumps from above, he will hit the parademon with enough force to knock him out cold. I won't be giving him pro wrestling as a style, since this move doesn't really resemble those dropkicks and the technique can more closely be attributed to sheer physics. However, since the dropkick is also seen in Taekwondo and is known as a double side kick, we will go ahead and attribute it to his knowledge in that style. Next up, he must deal with the parademon that is right next to him, and in order to do so, he steps in with an out to in block, or inside block as it's known in Taekwondo. Note that in some styles, such as Shotokan Karate, this is known as an outside block. This is very common in martial arts, where a technique crosses over, but the name changes depending on which style you're referring to. In Batman's case, he knows both Taekwondo and Karate. Once he redirects his foe's weapon, we get to see his reinforced gauntlets come into play. He uses his forearm to slam it into the gun. Normally, you wouldn't want to slam your forearm to break a high-powered weapon, as you're much more likely to break said forearm, but in Batman's case, it works fantastically well as he successfully disarms the parademon. He then relies on his Muay Thai skills as he throws an elbow strike at the parademon. Note how brilliantly it works in this situation, as he is using the reinforced gauntlet to slash at his enemies, turning his forearm into a slicing weapon. Once the parademon attempts to attack him from above, he executes the logical counter to it within Taekwondo, and that is known as a high block, or rising block. It's executed by moving the blocking arm upward in front of the face, while the non-blocking arm is retracted into position by the waist, or belt if you have a Taekwondo uniform on. Taking a look at Batman, note how his blocking arm flies upward to block the incoming attack, and just a few frames later, you could see his opposite arm jutting outward from beside his waist, denoting that he executed the block with excellent form. The great thing about watching Batman fight is how instantaneously he can switch between styles in the midst of combat to best serve his situation. He's gone from Taekwondo to Muay Thai, and now we see him explore one of the most basic tenets of Wing Chun Kung Fu, and that is the concept of trapping. It's when you momentarily immobilize an opponent's limbs to give you a brief opportunity to strike while he cannot. While this is usually accomplished by literally holding the opponent, Batman modifies the concept by using his aforementioned reinforced gauntlets. He swiftly swings his arm and uses said gauntlet to apply pressure instead of holding him, and redirects the parademon's arm. This gives him a moment to counterattack, and he does so by launching an extremely strong uppercut, switching into boxing, one of his styles in the warehouse fight scene from Batman vs Superman. Later on in the same fight, he's unfortunately struck with a If you'd like to learn about why he was susceptible to such an attack by the enemy, check out my Batman fighting skills video. Instead of analyzing how many fighting styles he knows, it analyzes how well he knows them, and gives him a numerical combat score at the end. Returning to the analysis at hand, unfortunately, Batman is tossed around like a rag doll by this one parademon for quite some time, but when he's finally given a chance to counterattack, he executes a step-in sidekick. Given that he doesn't have to travel that much distance, there isn't much of a hop as with someone like Spider-Man, but you can still see the form in this Taekwondo technique. For a full breakdown of the technique, check out my PS4 Spider-Man fighting styles video. And speaking of Spider-Man, Batman follows up this technique with Spider-Man's absolute favorite striking technique bar none, the aforementioned dropkick. But this time it's executed with a much more familiar trajectory. And not only that, Batman uses a grappling hook the same way that Spider-Man uses his webbing. It gives him that all-important arc to add extra strength to the technique. He finally defeats said parademon with an excellent spinning hook kick. Spinning kicks utilize the torquing action of the body to assist in developing the power of the kick. In Taekwondo, the spin hook kick is probably the most utilized kick for ending a sparring match, as if that kick lands, the match almost always ends in an instant KO. After this extended fight with the parademon, Batman realizes that he really can't engage in hand-to-hand combat to defeat the parademons like Aquaman or Wonder Woman. He needs to mostly rely on his gadgets and tech to do the fighting for him. Whether it's using the massive tank-like Nightcrawler to aid his team during the tunnel fight, his armed-to-the-teeth version of the Batmobile to fend off hordes of parademons, or even the Flying Fox to transport said team and break through massive shields. Whatever the problem is, Batman has a vehicle perfectly suited to deal with it. And not only that, this also extends to his boots on the ground arsenal as well. He has convenient parademon shattering grenades, gauntlets that absorb and redirect energy, as well as his trademark grappling gun to aid in his locomotion and combat, such as in this dropkick right here. In his original fighting styles video, I attributed ninjutsu to Batman. Ninjutsu is actually an umbrella martial art and is divided into 18 disciplines. I won't go into the extended explanation as I've already done so several times, but if you're interested, you are welcome to watch my Arkham Batman fighting styles video, which dissects ninjutsu with plenty of detail. In any case, several of those branches apply directly to this version of Batman, including taijutsu for unarmed combat, shuriken jutsu when he throws his batarang at Flash, inton jutsu when he disappears from Gordon, gyaku jutsu for his explosive weaponry, and even Boryaku for his military strategy shown in his final assault against Steppenwolf. But in this case, we will be referring to all of these as one style, ninjutsu, as that is what was done in his original tally. And what also must be said is that Batman goes well beyond shooting his grappling gun or a kryptonite grenade launcher in this film. While Wonder Woman and the rest of the heroes are playing a fighting game, he is definitely playing a shooting game. He frequently employs firearms, including an alien gun as well as an alien turret. He has incredible accuracy in every one of his shots. As such, combat shooting will be added to his tally. In conclusion, how many fighting styles does Batman know in Zack Snyder's Justice League? They are Taekwondo, Karate, Boxing, Muay Thai, Kung Fu, Ninjutsu, Combat Shooting, and adding what he showed in Batman vs Superman, which was Krav Maga, Savate, Judo, and Aikido, bringing his new grand total to 11 fighting styles. I'd like to thank each one of my Patreon members, as their contribution helped in the making of this video. If you'd like to contribute and appear in the credits in the future, my Patreon page is Godzillarex and it's in the description below. Which fighter would you like to see analyzed next? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to hit that subscribe button to be notified when the next video premieres. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.